Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, what I want to talk about is methods for crafting extremely high damage gloves. Now, this is going to focus around cold damage specifically, and is going to be heavily focused upon a specific incursion mod. You'll notice here that at the bottom of these Beast Talon gloves, there is a mod of Puharate, which is 47 to 48% cold resistance and 30 to 50% increased damage with hits against chilled enemies. 30 to 50% increased damage for a very easy condition to meet. That is a staggering boost to the amount of damage that you can put out, especially given that there is nothing stopping you from combining this with two other particular mods that are available. One of them is Varichi's Crafted mod, which is a massive increase to damage, percentage increase to damage while you are leeching, and the other one is Guff's mod, which is an increase to damage while you are using a flask. So these are both crafted mods that you can unlock through Jun. If you haven't been doing enough of Jun's missions to have the Varichi craft and the Guff craft unlocked, then you can try to find a trusted crafter to do them for you. And make sure that if you do that, because they're doing a useful service for you, make sure that you do reward them reasonably for doing so. So what I've done is I've gone into trade and I have looked for gloves that are gripped gloves. So they have the implicit modifier of 14 to 18% increased projectile attack damage, and that they have this of Puharate mod. The Puharate mod can only drop from incursion content. However, this is sort of bled over because there's a number of metamorph mods in particular that will drop incursion armor. And when they drop incursion armor, there's a chance for it to be gloves. Incursion gloves are insanely strong. At least the incursion mods are. That doesn't mean that every individual set of incursion gloves is great. One mod doesn't make an item. And it also doesn't stop there from being a truly terrible Jopex mod, which is mana related. As if you're not likely to want that on gloves in pretty much any circumstance. But if you don't get a Jopex glove, then you'll get an elemental related glove, and it will have a very strong mod on it. The 6 mods that you can get, 3 of them are elemental damage and elemental conversion. One example would be adds flat lightning damage and converts 25% of your physical damage into lightning damage. That's a very strong mod. There are 3 different versions of that. One for fire, one for lightning, and one for cold. Then there are the 3 suffixes, and I've picked out the cold aligned one here, which is the strongest of the 3, but all 3 of them are pretty good. So firstly, there is the cold aligned one, which is cold resistance and increased 30 to 50% increased damage with hits against chilled enemies. Chilled enemies, lots of enemies can be made to be chilled. If they're tanky, you can chill them, and if they're chilled, you're getting a large boost to damage, so this is a really good mod. The fire version of this gives you tier 1 fire resist, so 46 to 48%, and a huge chunk of flat fire damage added against enemies that are burning. So if you can set an enemy on fire, that will add lots of flat fire damage. That's probably the weakest of the 3, but it's still good. And the lightning one gives you 46, 47, or 48% lightning resistance, and also gives you a huge chunk of increased critical strike chance against enemies that are already shocked. So basically, once you land your first shock on an enemy, you're then more likely to crit them again, and of course each crit will refresh the shock, and so although this won't help you at the very start of a fight when you're getting your first hit on an enemy, it's likely to keep going after that. So, with that in mind, how are we going to craft these? Oblivion Knuckle and Beast Talons. The first thing that we want to do is assess, are these worth using Conqueror's Exalted Orbs on as they currently stand, or are they worth multi-modding? And you can't really multi-mod an item that has got 4 mods on it. So gripped Oblivion Knuckle is 4 real mods plus a Mastercrafted mod, and Beast Talons is 4 real mods. So our first step is going to be to hit them with Annulment Orbs. What we're going to want to do, we want to have 2 free prefixes on one of these items, and that's going to be easiest to hit on Oblivion Knuckle. So I'm going to go to the crafting bench first, and on Oblivion Knuckle I'm going to purge the crafted mod that someone else has put on there. That would have undoubtedly served the previous owner of these gloves well, But for me, it does nothing, and therefore I'm going to spend a Scouring Orb on the crafting bench, and I'm going to take it out the back and shoot it. Now, my next goal is that because the various multi-mods that I would want to put on this item are all suffixes, are all prefixes. So there is the Leo's prefix, sorry, not Leo's, there's the Varicci's prefix and the Guff's prefix that add the massive amounts of damage. My goal here is going to be to annul it and hope that I hit either of the Leopard or of Osmosis. This is necessary in order to free up the space in order to be able to use the multi-mod. In the event that I hit the Frigid prefix, that's unfortunate. I would like that prefix to remain intact. In the event that I hit the Of Purate mod, then that is a deal breaker. This item is destroyed. And of course, I have hit the Of Purate mod first, so this is now completely useless. There is no benefit to further crafting with this item. It is completely down the drain. So let's have a look at Beast Talons now. So we have three prefixes on this and one suffix. There's a couple options that you can take here. The first option would be to smash all of the prefixes at once with the suffix locking trick. With the suffix locking trick. However, that requires a free prefix slot and is very expensive. If you're familiar with that, that is to craft prefixes cannot be changed on an item, then to suffixes cannot be changed, which is a prefix, then hit it with a Scouring Orb. However, that is not practical. We don't have a free prefix, and also it's 2 exalts to make that craft, and I don't think it's worth it. So our goal is instead going to be to hit this with an Annulment Orb. If we hit Of Purate, again, we're dead. If we hit one of the others, that's good. In fact, we're going to want to hit 2 of them. So we have a 50% chance of succeeding here, and a 50% chance of killing off the Of Purate. And it looks like we've just killed off Of Purate on the first attempt. So unfortunately, we're not going to have any successes here. But the key takeaway from this is that, well, 1, RNG giveth and RNG taketh away. Random chance does not obey karma. Random chance is not out to get you, but it is also not your friend, and sometimes it's just going to go against you. Secondly, there are lots of these gloves on the market, so it's not some devastating loss. I think what I have lost here has been 2 Annulment Orbs and about 10 Chaos worth of gloves, so I'm certainly not gutted to have failed in both of those attempts. In fact, before I recorded this, I made a different attempt with a more expensive set of gloves that took out an Exalt as well. But even then, crafting is a high variance game in Path of Exile. Sometimes you win, sometimes you burn. And fortunately, I haven't burnt for very much in this video. The second thing to take away from this is that the incursion mods particularly on items that have implicits that add damage, or just special implicits in general that synergize with them, the incursion mods are very strong, and particularly so on gloves. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there. I think it's important to show a few unsuccessful crafting attempts as well as successful ones, because that is a big part of learning crafting in Path of Exile. But comments or questions, fire away below.